steroids come into role, and we will see later on that how they are going to become the game changers in the critical care. So when we talk about steroids in critical care, then which one, how much, what route, how long, and when not. So these are some normal questions that come into our mind. There's so wide variety of steroids that are available. So which one is going to help my patient, my particular subset of patients? So there are some proven role of steroids where we don't have any doubt about that. Everyone have a consensus, an agreement. That is like for anaphylaxis in lungs, asthma, COPD, and obviously post-extubation stridor, croup, in CNS, bacterial meningitis, tubercular meningitis, or in myasthenic crisis, myxedema coma, or in case of vasogenic cerebral edema. That is like in case of tumor or some other inflammatory lesions, not in case of cytotoxic edema, obviously. Other is the endocrine, that is Addison's disease, hypercalcemia, HPA insufficiency, that is hypothalamo pituitary adrenal axis insufficiency, or in case of previous steroid use, if you are withdrawing the steroid support, it may lead to several hemodynamic consequences. Other uses of steroid are vasculitis, organ transplantations, malignancies, especially lymphomas. It is well known for post-op nausea, vomiting prophylaxis as well, and in case of palliative care. Now comes the scene where there is some doubtful role, or the role is not defined and it is controversial. So this is accepted but controversial use of steroids in case of severe sepsis with resistant shock, when to give in sepsis and when not to give, in spinal injury, in case of early ARDS. And the contraindication when not to give is clear-cut Cushing's disease, that is over or excess of steroid. Traumatic brain injury, we have trials that clearly they clearly say that there is no proven benefit. Rather, there are more mortality in the cohort which were receiving steroids, and in case of late ARDS where the fibrosis already settled. So my talk will be based on this guidelines that was out in 2017, late 2017, and it is the guideline on the critical illness related corticosteroid insufficiency in critically ill patients. So this was the second guideline. Earlier one was released in 2008. And at that time, this term CIRCI was coined actually, and the landmark trial Corticus was released at that time. So I will be talking on septic shock, ARDS, and trauma. Because the steroid is a very big topic, for simplicity, I have divided it into two parts. So today I'll be talking about septic shock, at ARDS, and trauma. So in septic shock, the earliest trial was Corticus trial that was done in 2008. And most of the trials that have been done in septic shock uses the steroid hydrocortisone. No trials are there for dexamethasone and other steroids. It is for hydrocortisone. That is, the dose is defined 200 mg per day. So that initial trial used 50 milligram of 6 hourly for 5 days, then tapered off on next 6 days, like 12 hourly for 3 days, then 24 hourly for 3 days, and then stopped. In the Corticus trial, there were no mortality benefit, but in the secondary outcome, they found that the reversal of shock and the length of stay was less. Although there was no difference in all-cause mortality, but they observed that there were more reversal of shock and lesser length of stay in ICU, lesser mechanical ventilation days. Then comes the recent one, the 2016 HYPRESS trial, that they hypothesize that whether if the patient who is already in sepsis, if we administer steroid, can we prevent that patient to land into septic shock? Then it shows that there was no benefit. So if the patient is not in septic shock, you should not probably give steroid. So HYPRESS trial was all regarding this. Then Approaches trial, and most recent one is Adrenal trial. The Approaches trial was in 2018. They have 3 treatment arms. One was the hydrocortisone, other one was hydrocortisone with Fludrocortisone is mineralocorticoid. And the third one was with hydrocortisone, fludrocortisone, and droperidone alpha. That was a pharma-driven drug that Zigris. Now it was launched in 2008, 2010, and was withdrawn from the 2008. It was launched, and in 2011 it was withdrawn from the market. So this trial and the analysis of trial was between the hydrocortisone placebo and hydrocortisone and fludrocortisone group basically. So they found that there was some more there was a more benefit in terms of lesser ICU stay, lesser initial length of mechanical ventilation, and better reversal of shock. So approaches trial was therefore in favor of use of hydrocortisone in cases of septic shock, and the most recent is the adrenal trial. Though they have the primary outcome was 90 days all-cause mortality, so there was benefit, but not statistically significant benefit. But yes, there were lesser ICU stay, lesser length of mechanical ventilation, and early reversal of shock. Regarding the adverse effects, they found that hyperglycemia was the most commonly seen adverse effect in both the groups, but then there was no significant difference between the two groups, because we always have some kind of apprehension when using steroid that patient may land into infection, patient may get hypertension, and there are so many so-called adverse effects. So only they can observe that was hyperglycemia, and that too there was no any that I will discuss later on probably. So, so what the current guidelines say that current clinical practice guidelines recommend the use of hydrocortisone in patients with septic shock if adequate fluid resuscitation and treatment with vasopressor have not restored hemodynamic stability. So you have to initially fluid resuscitate the patient, then you have to provide a vasopressor, and if at all the shock is not being reversed, you can use the hydrocortisone. Because I have already told that there is no benefit in when the patient is not having a resistant shock. So generally this question is that should corticosteroid be administered among hospitalized adult patients with sepsis without shock? Then the answer is probably, though there is some, the landmark trial is Hypres trial that I already said. They have analyzed some 27 RCTs, both small and larger trials, and they suggest against the use. Now, this was all about the septic shock. Now coming to ARDS. So while formulating these guidelines, they analyzed total of 9 trials, and they categorize into early as well as late. So we all know there are 3 phases of ARDS. One is the inflammatory, proliferative, then fibrotic. So what happens that it shows that whatever the recommended dose of methylprednisolone is 1 mg to 2 mg per kg body weight, not more than that, not less than that. And if you are using it if you are initiating it early, that is in less than 72 hours, then you have to use this lower dose, that is 1 mg per kg per day. If you are starting it after 7 days, you have to use it 2 mg per kg body weight. And it is associated with faster disease resolution, shorter time to unassisted breathing, and shorter time to ICU discharge. So guidelines suggest that use of corticosteroids is in early moderate to severe cases in which PF ratio is less than 200 and within 14 days of onset. So it has again a reminder for that don't use steroids for more than 14 days in established ARDS. The lungs has already been fibrosed. You are going to gain nothing from that. And also the duration is around 14 days, initial full dose for the 7 days, and have to be tapered off the next 6 to 14 days. So the landmark trials for formulating these guidelines are LungSafe, Recover Program, prolonged glucocorticoid treatment, and the Understanding ARDS associated fibroproliferation. So mostly the ARDS is because of any pathology in lung or in extrapulmonary pathology. So as I already said, that in case of pulmonary pathology that is progressing to ARDS, because in septic shock, I ruled out the use of hydrocortisone, that you should not use in sepsis. You should not use steroid in sepsis. You should use steroid in septic shock. So what about this pneumonia? Shall we start when there is pneumonia already, pneumonia has started, or shall we start when the ARDS has started? So the landmark journal article published in 2015 in JAMA, it shows that if you are using corticosteroids, in case of community-acquired pneumonia, there are chances of lesser treatment failure. What is lesser treatment failure? There are early treatment failure and there are late treatment failure. Early treatment failure means lesser deaths, lesser patient going on mechanical ventilation, and lesser patient requiring vasopressor support. Late treatment failure are the other causes that in later phases there is some radiological progression, there is radiological deterioration, or in later case the patient may require ventilation or patient will land into shock. So these were the one landmark trial, and based on it, in this trial, what they did, they used methylprednisolone. There is one study also that compares hydrocortisone to methylprednisolone, and it says that when you have to use hydrocortisone in septic shock, but in case of lung pathology, the preferable steroid is methylprednisolone, prednisolone, or dexamethasone. So you cannot compare hydrocortisone is equal to methylprednisolone for lung cases. So the intervention was 0.5 mg per kg per every 12 hours, and it was given for 5 days, started within 36 hours of hospital admission. And as result, I already told you that there was lesser treatment failure in the patient in the cohort that was treated with steroid. So this is the systematic review, and meta-analysis. That was the landmark paper, and this is the article published that they have published the meta-analysis. And in this, some 9 trials were analyzed, and lower all-cause mortality, length of mechanical ventilation, or ICU stay in steroid group were there. So now I am discussing about community-acquired pneumonia. Same time, we are all struggling with the COVID-19. So we all are practicing steroid. So what are the evidences? Just a quick look. So little busy slide, but I just want to tell when it was started. In that time, there were some interim analysis, there were some position paper, and that position paper was based on previous ARDS guidelines. So previously, when you will say in March, they were telling that in case of ARDS, you can use steroid. That was weak suggestion. But later onwards, when we have the results of recovery trial and several other trials, some interim results, then from June and July onwards, it is clearly indicated that glucocorticoids, rather than no glucocorticoids, were suggested for the treatment of the COVID-19 patients. But this steroid should be used in moderate to severe category patients. This should not be used on mild asymptomatic cases. So recovery trial used 6 mg of dexamethasone. 2 trials they used dexamethasone, that is recovery and codex, and 2 trials that use hydrocortisone. So in recovery, they used 6 milligram for 10 days, and significantly lesser 28-day mortality was there. In codex trial that was in Brazil, they used 20 mg for 5 days and 10 mg for next 5 days or until ICU discharge. And there were significant ventilator-free days. While 2 trials that were evaluating the role of hydrocortisone, one was they found no significant difference, that was done in France, that is CAPE COD, and another one is REMCAP, in which they have not come to any interim result, but they are just suggesting there is some 93% probability of superiority of hydrocortisone, though we don't have the results presently. So this was about the COVID-19. Now, one more indication that is frequently we see in the OT setup or in the ICUs, that is the post-extubation stridor. So this is the one paper that was published in 2009, I guess, and repeat published was in 2014. Another trial is going on that is evaluating in pediatric cases, that is not published yet. That will be probably published in 2021. So in this, they have clearly said that there is role of steroid. Again, they have said that no role of hydrocortisone, but dexamethasone you can preferably, or methylprednisolone you can use preferably. And then you should not use it as a routine. It should be used only those patients in whom you are suspecting some stridor or some evidence of post-extubation upper airway obstruction. So now this was all about the ARDS, septic shock, stridor. Now I'll concentrate on this. What about the major trauma patients? Because ICU receives a major chunk of road traffic accidents. So whether we should use or not. So British Trauma Foundation guidelines that was released in 2016. So there is clear evidence that if in a case of traumatic brain injury, do not use Dexona, because in the Dexona, like steroid, because in the steroid group, there was clear-cut increased mortality, significant increased mortality in the steroid group. So that was the CRASH-1 trial that was done in 2001. And the doses that were used was loading for 2 grams over 1 hour. Then they used high doses, 0.4 grams per hour for next 48 hours infusion. So clear-cut contraindicated in this case. So now what about acute spinal cord injury? So we, since our PG days, we were habituated to give some pulse steroid for any cases of spinal cord injury. So after NASIS trial, it was much debated whether there is no benefit, so why to give? So this was the Cochrane review in 2015. And evidences fail to demonstrate an overall difference between high dose, low dose, or between long or short duration methylprednisolone. But on closer inspection, in this review found that there was, in the largest trial, there was significant missing data. Missing data means that in 6 months of follow-up, some 11% of subjects were missing. And in 1 month follow-up, around 14% of data were missing. So these data, missed data could be because of non-adherence or dropouts or some other causes. So if this amount, the 14% or 11% is a major chunk, then it will be really that we cannot conclude from this statistical analysis. So until and unless a more larger trial with rigorous methodology is available, clinicians are advised to exercise this with caution. So, but for the guidelines for the American Association of Neurological Surgeons and Congress of Neurological Surgeons, they recommend against the routine administration of high-dose methylprednisolone for acute traumatic spinal cord injuries. So, coming to the adverse effect, because we all know that steroids are double-edged sword. So, hyperglycemia, ICU-acquired weakness, gastrointestinal bleeding, hypertension, increased infections, osteoporosis, avascular necrosis, and glaucoma, because it increases intraocular pressure as well. So with the exception of hyperglycemia, that too mostly within the 36 hours of following an initial bolus, prolonged glucocorticoid treatment was not associated with increased risk of neuromuscular weakness, GI bleeding, or nosocomial infections. Even in the Corticus trial also, they could not find significant fungemia or bacteremia in both the groups. So I'll conclude my today's talk, and I think my take-home message will be, I want the answer from the students. So if you got a patient with septic shock, what steroid you will use? What steroid you will use? Hydrocortisone. If you get a patient of ARDS, pneumonia, stridor, what steroid you will use? Fine. If you got a patient of brain trauma, what steroid you will use? Contraindicate. So many folks, people are telling the right answer. So if you got a patient of spinal injury, so there is not indicated, but the evidences are weak. And hyperglycemia was not associated with increased morbidity if controlled appropriately. So this was about the part 1. And in part 2, because I already explained that steroid is a very big topic, it is really difficult to club it up into one class. The next part I'll be talking about corticoid, critical illness related corticosteroid insufficiency, role in infections, role in autoimmune diseases, and miscellaneous. So this was all about the talk.
Thank you. what are interesting on the people that we are talking about only 20 minutes. So if you come on time, it will be very good. If you are coming on, what happens is you will miss some points at it. So we are talking about 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes. Now start it up.
First of all, let me congratulate Dr. Swechna for giving a very lucid talk, and it was very informative to all of us. Uh, as far as medicine is concerned, we are using steroids unequivocally. This the first therapy basically steady with the renal crisis.